Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of the Democratic Newsroom. The last couple of days we've seen fiery debates on the floor of the House where Operation Sindoor was concerned. So who owned the Operation Sindoor narrative? The jury is still out there. A lot of ramifications coming in, especially where international ramifications come into question. Tariffs, there's still a debate going on in Parliament on that. So who owned the Operation Sindoor debate? We've got our editors to weigh in on it. I have with me Pranay, our editor, who also covers the Ministry of External Affairs very closely. Gaurav, as usual, one of the stars of the Democratic Newsroom. The superstar of the Democratic Newsroom, Rajdeep Sardesai, and my colleague Akshita. So all of us have come to you with our own perspective on how the debates panned out. Rajdeep, let's begin with you.
Can I duck out for once? If you're going to put the question as to who owned the debate, who won or lost, look, 26 lives were lost. Tragic, innocent lives were lost in a terrible, horrific terror attack. So I'm a little reluctant to treat a debate on that as a win or lose, like a cricket match. So I'm going to duck out of that. What I will say, Parliament won. I think it's extremely important that Parliament remain a forum for debate, because one of the problems, particularly in the last decade, has been the inability for Parliament to debate issues of urgent national importance. So I'm glad the debate took place. I'm glad that so many people got a chance to speak. I wish I could also say that the people of the country won out. But I can't say that, because the debate was classically hyper-partisan, as most Parliament debates have gone on. If you listen to the government, they took zero accountability for what I believe was a terrible security lapse in Pahalgam. Put it in any way you want, it was a terrible security lapse, and there was zero sense of accountability on part of the government. If you look at the opposition and their spokesperson, they were simply unwilling to accept that Narendra Modi's government has drawn a new red line in the sand vis-a-vis Pakistan. They've gone and targeted terrorist infrastructure deep into Punjab, and thereby perhaps sent out a strong message to Pakistan that their nuclear blackmail will not do. I wish, therefore, there was more bipartisanship, because as a citizen of this country, I want the truth. And I didn't get the truth, frankly, because people are so caught up in their hyper-polarized views. A government that refuses to take accountability for its failures, and an opposition that simply will not even give credit, forget about the government, at least to the armed forces, for some of the actions that they took in Pakistan. So I, in that sense, don't want to get into who owned the debate and who did not. I just wish we could see a greater willingness to accept weaknesses on one side and strengths on the other.
So Rajdeep doesn't want to draw in the debate out into binaries of who won or who lost. Gaurav, how do you weigh in on it?
India won, no two ways about it. Big victory for India at every level. India won.
India bloc.
India bloc is part of India. Absolutely. And that is exactly why I don't see it the way, some may want to see it, and so partisan. I am so proud. So when our members of parliament went out, they went out as India, speaking in one voice. That's what matters. Overseas, you speak in one voice. Internally, you may fight as much as you want to, but that also shows India's true strength, or Bharat's true strength. That is, we are a very strong democracy. We will discuss and debate everything, and so openly. Can this happen in Pakistan? Can this happen in China? Can this happen anywhere else? Clearly not the way it happens here, and that way India won. That is one part. How India won is, this is the strongest possible action yet against Pakistan. Is it a line drawn in sand? No, it's a line drawn in stone. And how? Never have you hit 11 Pakistani air bases and radar stations. Never. Never have you hit Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror at its headquarters in Muridke, in Bahawalpur, at Noor Khan, their command and control sector, center. You haven't hit them in Mushaf, in Rafiki, in Jacobabad, from Skardu in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, down to Bolari in Sindh, to Melir cantonment in Karachi. The manner in which India was able to send across a message through made in India weapons and systems to a very large extent, that just goes on to show India has arrived on the world stage. And even if countries like China and the US are not very happy about it, India will bomb Pakistan if it serves our purpose and teach terror a lesson. Internally, accountability. Of course, we need accountability. We've needed accountability in our country as we've been debating right from 1947. Why did we lose POK? Why did we lose Aksai-Chin? Why did we lose so much of our territory? Of course, we need accountability. We need it now. We needed it then.
Pranay, you want to quickly, your 2 cents.
I think there is a classic challenge as far as India's narrative selling exercise is concerned. Whatever happened in Parliament, that was largely reduced to the partisan issues, which is obvious thing, as Rajdeep mentioned, because it was all a sling match to score brownie points to address their own constituents. But having said that, the larger issue remains that I completely agree with Gaurav on the count that we have successfully carried out an operation. But how did we sell our story? I think somewhere there has been some problems, some challenges in our storytelling, the way we sold our story, and that the narrative conflict remained there. How Pakistani knew that they sold that notion of victory. Well, and somewhere due to our systemic issue, and that is also part of being a democracy as well, that you have your own system, checks and balances, you weigh your statement and you become late in putting out your statement. Otherwise, it would have been very easy for the government to give out so-called selectively to journalists and sell the story that Pakistan has asked for the truce. Pakistan has asked for a ceasefire. Why to let Donald Trump to tweet it first? There we lost. And right from the admission about the losses in a military operation, which is a very obvious thing. Nobody expects you not to lose. But the admission, since the government didn't admit it in as many terms, that remained a problem, and which problem, the same problem you saw in the parliament debate as well. So that remained a problem. Who won, who didn't won, everyone has its own perspective. Government will always go back to the issues of history, like from 47 onward, what has happened, who conceded what and what counts. But still, these are the issues. And as far as the Operation Sindoor is concerned, yes, definitely we carried out an operation very successfully. We sent out a politico-military message. Whether it will have some impact, a future impact, in terms of Pakistan being desisting not to carry out any terror attack, we are yet to see. We do not know whether there will be another terror attack or not, and whether we will escalate it to in terms of war, yet to be tested, that statement. But still, on narrative, internationally also, we lacked somewhere in selling our story, and that is a thing which we need to review and ponder and think upon for any future operation.
Akshita, go ahead.
Well, largely going into the debate, I wanted only one answer essentially from the government, which was on all of the questions about Trump constantly raising the issue of mediation. And I think on that front, you had even the Prime Minister kind of clarifying that there was no intervention whatsoever from any world leader and detailing for us the exact timeline. We've heard it repeatedly. We've heard it from the MEA. We've heard it from Dr. Jaishankar himself previously. But I think the fact that it came from the Prime Minister kind of spelt it down. There was a lot of focus on it. Of course, Rahul Gandhi's speech was largely on that, saying, why isn't Prime Minister Modi calling out Trump to be a liar, which is, to me, far-fetched. You can't expect the Prime Minister on the floor of the House to call the US President a liar. But I think what Prime Minister Modi spoke of, giving the exact sequence of events, to me kind of answered the question about whether US mediated or not. Yes, you're talking of narratives, Pranay. Yes, we're talking about, who won the narrative war on social media with articles and whatnot. But I think as far as setting the record straight on the one issue of America constantly and Trump constantly saying it, 24 hours after that debate, with the kind of comments that he's made on tariffs, with the kind of things that he said about India being a dead economy, I think now it's very clear really what India's stand was really what happened.
Rajiv wants to
I
come
don't
in
think the
and then
record
I'll
has been set straight at all.
Why not?
There is no record set straight. The fact is that it's very clear that, and this was admitted by the government, that there was a long conversation with the US Vice President Vance. We all know that the role the Secretary of State Rubio has played behind the scenes. The government, obviously for obvious reasons, cannot reveal the exact details of it. But let's be clear, we don't know the exact extent of the American mediation and which took place to try and bring both sides to ceasefire.
What would you like to be honest?
No. Fact is, government
what do you
is.
think the government should have answered?
I'm saying government. As I said, there are certain details the government cannot reveal in public domain. But to suggest that the government has clarified the issue once and for all, that's not true. In fact, even as the debate was going on, Donald Trump is still claiming credit for ceasefire.
No, he can claim.
So,
He's also calling us
one minute.
Who do you believe? The Prime Minister of this country in Parliament, or a Donald Trump who has a history of being economic?
I believe as always, the truth is somewhere in between. The truth is that the Americans certainly played a particular role. The very fact that the US Vice President was on the line constantly making those comments which have now come on record about the nature of conversation.
Which everybody
suggests,
knew, not for the first time today.
suggests clearly
Not
that
for
there
the
was,
first time
look,
today.
I am not saying that, you see, Donald Trump says, I take credit for the ceasefire. Therefore, I think that's an extreme position. For India to say that America, there was no American pressure, there was no American mediation, is also, according to me, from the sequence of events, clearly not true.
But
The
India's
truth, as
been
often, lies in
transparent.
between. It's also very clear that not just the Americans, there were other countries involved.
Sure.
Saudi Arabia's name is coming out. Therefore, as I said at the very outset, the government still doesn't want to reveal the entire truth of both what happened in terms of the security lapses that led to Pahalgam, as well as what eventually led to ceasefire.
What's the biggest
opposition
headline?
on the other?
Hold on,
Okay,
Rajdeep.
let him come in.
Big thing? What is the big thing? Whether Trump called up Modi or whether Vance called up Modi or whether the Pakistani DGMO said बहुत हो गया अब ceasefire
No, I
करते
still
हैं.
am not.
No, hold on.
Gaurav, you
What
know
is
far,
important?
just a minute, sir.
What is important?
You know far more about military matters. I still am, as purely as again someone observing it from the outside, still mystified by the fact that India so suddenly on that 10th evening decided to accept ceasefire.
But the Prime
No,
Minister
the Prime Minister, one Prime Minister has not explained it.
Yes, he has.
He has not.
Not
has
just
got
the
it.
Prime
The
Minister, the
Executive
Defense
and
Minister, the
the
Home
Defense
Minister,
I
the
don't
External
believe.
Affairs
I
Minister,
don't
they've all
believe.
explained.
No,
Starting
I
with the
don't
Defense
believe
Minister.
again.
Yes.
Just a minute. And then you can respond. I don't believe again that this is some kind of a cricket match where I can give ball by ball commentary.
Okay.
The government cannot give that. However, I do believe that there are certain issues that still remain tangled in some kind of a cloud, which were not answered by
Like
this
what?
debate. Perhaps because you can't openly say something, it would embarrass other world capitals if you were to tell your parliament what actually happened behind the
permit
scenes.
me.
So that's all
Can
I'm
I
saying.
get
Hold on.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay, let Gaurav
Permit
go
me-
first and then I'll get my 2 cents
Okay,
in.
permit me just to tell you the sequence of events in terms of what the government has said on record in Parliament, and not just what sources had initially told Pranay and I and journalists on the Defense and the External Affairs Ministry beat. It was very clear from the word go. India's aim, as some say, Kashmir kyun nahi, POK kyun nahi le liya? That was not the aim. In any war, there's a aim and you achieve that aim. So POK in this operation was not the aim. Point 1. Point 2, आपने ceasefire क्यों कर दिया? Government of India का aim क्या था? Government of India का stated aim, not even a secret aim, stated aim था we will punish terror for the first time ever, including in Bahawalpur and Muridke. That aim was achieved. Then our DGMO calls up the Pakistani DGMO and tells him, ये हमने कर दिया है, do not escalate, our measures are non-escalatory. In fact, Pakistan should have thanked India for targeting terrorists. They said, नहीं, आपने तो हम पर attack कर दिया. What exposes Pakistan? Again, a big takeaway is this marriage between terrorists and Pakistan army, which was out in the open with the pictures with the terrorist army at the funeral. Point 2. Point 3. Pakistan tried to target our military installations. In response, India targeted and said, you stop, we stop, we will fire the last bullet. It cannot be clearer as day. So when Pakistan said, okay, we are stopping, government of India stopped. My take is, my personal take, we still should have hit them more. But then you see, if you have to become the 4th largest economy and the 3rd largest economy, then you also have to ensure that, like after that, parliament attack and when Operation Parakram happened, world capitals started withdrawing their ambassadors from India and mounting pressure on India.
Okay.
And despite a Kaluchak massacre, we could do nothing. So at least government of India, some people learn from past experiences and don't repeat their mistakes.
You know, I just want to get 2 cents in because firstly, I do think one needs to reflect a little more on the lapses that took place, right, where Pahalgam was concerned. And the accountability. Has accountability been fixed? No, accountability has not been fixed. I mean,
No, big no.
Operation,
Big
I
no.
agree with that.
Completely,
So where
sure.
Operation Sindoor is concerned, nobody is debating whether it was a success or not. It was a success. Has accountability been fixed? No. So when you are looking at it in terms of politics and what happened on the floor of the House, and I'm just gauging between the debates, and I'm taking off what I thought was credible from the Treasury benches and what I thought was credible from the opposition. I think it's fair to ask that after 26/11, if the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, if the Home Minister of the country could tender in their resignation, what happens now? Where is the accountability? I don't know who's responsible for Pahalgam terror attack, number one. Number two, I
Pakistan
completely...
is responsible for Pahalgam terror attack.
Accountable. Allow me to finish.
Lapses
Allow
did
me to
happen.
finish, Gaurav. So accountable. Who's accountable? Is somebody from India accountable? Who's accountable? Right? Somebody needs to take accountability. Like in the past, it has happened. Number one.
Did
Number
that
two.
accountability make India
Number
safer
two.
from Pakistan?
One second. You need to take.
Circumstances of 26/11.
You need to take accountability. That's it. Number one. Number two. What I feel is, I don't think that the Prime Minister of the country should have stood up in Parliament and said Trump is a liar. I think there are certain diplomatic exigencies and that need to be followed, which in the manner in which way he addressed it, that no leader called and stopped the operation, was credible. It's something I take off the treasury benches. Number three, I am a little sick and tired right now of everything being Nehru's fault. I want to know what was our fault, where we went down, who's responsible, why there were no forces in Pahalgam. I know it by heart what Nehru's fault was, and believe me, I do know what the Congress's fault is because my father had fought the Haji Pir battle. So I know when Haji Pir was given back. I want to know what now. Allow me to finish. Let me just, allow me to finish. Lastly, like you said, Gaurav, that this is the... And I could agree with you because one of the best defensive, army, air force, navy defense that we have ever built against Pakistan, a cohesive coming together of an attack. Great. I would want...
With made in India weapons.
I am agreeable at every count, right? Where you, with whatever you say. I want a very basic understanding. Who are my heroes today? Who is going to get the Veer Chakra? Who am I celebrating? Am I celebrating the Prime Minister? Am I celebrating the Home Minister? Am I celebrating the Defense Minister? Am I celebrating the Minister of External Affairs? I want to know.
Okay, sure.
I want to know.
Wait for the next
who said
Independence
Dil
Day.
Mange More. I want to know who's my.
Wait for the next Republic Day. Wait for the next Independence Day.
Why should I?
That's
I
the
want
protocol.
to know. It's not the protocol
That is.
you covered Kargil.
Of course I covered Kargil.
I was in school. We knew exactly. Did we? Oh, by the way, our pilot
Kargil,
who fell during Balakot.
Abhinandan.
Yes, Abhinandan.
Yes.
We found out when.
His medal you found out. You want to know when
One
he got
second,
a medal.
one
There is
second.
a system in
There
India.
has to
I must
be-
but I must
No,
clarify
one
this
second. Let
point.
me
You
just-
permit me
let
to
me-
clarify this
allow
point.
me- allow me to
You made a
finish.
point and let me clarify.
When
Let me
you
just
were-
clarify
when-
this one point.
I was in school, Gaurav, when
Fair
you were
enough.
covering Kargil.
Yes.
And some of these boys were from my school.
Yes.
The day Nayyar died, Captain Nayyar died, it was announced in my school the next day.
Okay.
The next day.
But his medal wasn't announced.
His medal
wasn't announced the same day.
Dil Mange More was reported 2 days after it happened.
Okay.
It's been now how many months? I don't know who my heroes are. And I
Okay.
think as an ex-army officer's daughter who's fought 2 wars,
I
I
wish
need
you had
to
seen
know
some of
who
my
are
reporting.
my heroes.
I wish you had seen some of my reporting because I was reporting from the front lines and we had this young lady officer who was at that air defense gun, who was the one who was shooting down the Yeha drones, and she was on India Today. And we had like a whole group of India Today reporters who were in Jammu, who were in Kashmir,
Do we know
in Punjab.
if
No, hold on.
If at all we
Again, you're not
have
letting me
if
complete.
at all
You're
we
not letting me
have a
complete.
jet down,
If-
if at all we have a jet
You're
down,
not-
do I know who is my hero who's injured? Who do I
Okay.
have to pray for tonight?
Okay. Once
Amit
Preeti
Shah
has raised
said
up,
there
no,
have
hold
been
on,
no casualties.
hold on.
No, 1 minute.
Hold on. You're not letting me complete my point. Rajdeep, 30 seconds.
And I'll come to you.
Preeti raised a point. Who's got a Veer Chakra? Who's got a Veer Chakra and who's getting a Veer Chakra? That is not enough. We are not Pakistan that a Nishane Haider is printed or is given to, or a Nishane.
We are also not a
Imtiaz.
Pakistan who
Hold on.
doesn't own
You're not
their
letting me-
men.
Not even a field marshal.
You're not letting me complete my point. Was given a medal the very next day, General Kurila, for saying Pakistan fights with us. In our country, there is a protocol, and I wish everyone knows that protocol. Gallantry
I know it
awards.
as- I know it as
I'm
well as
sorry,
you.
I am sorry. Gallantry awards
I know
are
it as
only
well
announced-
as you.
Then you shouldn't have asked
I
that
know who
question.
my heroes are.
Your gallantry
I knew
awards.
who Vikram Batra was
Okay.
before Vikram
So
Batra
now she's not
was,
letting me complete my point.
Before Vikram
Gallantry
Batra was
awards-
given a gallantry award. So let's
Gallantry
not get
awards
there.
are only announced
This is-
either
Okay,
on
one
Republic
second.
Day,
Preeti,
either on
sorry,
Republic
no,
Day
let
or
us-
on Independence Day.
Okay.
But
That's the only time
But
gallantry
there is
awards
a
are
difference
announced.
in martyrs
Navdeep.
and the operational guys, those who are in operation right now. You definitely will get to know. Just go to the Air Force Day parade and you will get to know the commendation
One
cards.
second, come on. Okay, let's not get into, or like, I don't want to get into it because then it'll be like
No,
I'm
no, go
hogging the
ahead,
debate.
Rajdeep.
Go ahead, Rajdeep.
I just think I should get that
Look,
gavel.
when 16-hour debates are held, since the topic was on parliament debate, 16 hours in Lok Sabha, 16 hours in Rajya Sabha, as a citizen of this country, I want to know much more about what happened, about events that led to Pahalgam and what happened during Operation Sindoor. My sense was, as always, this debate got tangled in domestic politics. The Prime Minister of the country speaks for 102 minutes and mentions Jawaharlal Nehru 14 times. That's once every 7 minutes. I don't want to know, frankly, about Nehru's mistakes anymore. They've been told to me now umpteen times in the last
still paying
decade.
the price.
No, 1 minute,
We're
1
still
minute.
paying the price
This
for it.
debate, this debate was
There's a
about
context.
No, 1 minute. There is no context
come to
between
Akshita after
operation.
Rajdeep.
If you need to know the
Ma'am,
present,
1
we
minute.
need to understand
Okay,
our past.
Okay, chalo. I want. If you need to know the present, you need to understand the past. Chalo, we'll give it for a moment.
No,
but
that's
in
a
100
fact.
No, 1 minute. In a 102-minute speech, I want to know whether the actions that we've taken in Sindoor have worked as an effective deterrent in the mind of the government against Pakistan. A Pakistan whose general has been elevated to field marshal. That field marshal has
he
gone.
can
1
elevate
minute. Now
himself
you
to-
must
to
let me
God
complete.
tomorrow if he
I
wants.
allowed you, sir, to complete. The field marshal has gone and lunched with the president of the United States. America has said that Pakistan is an important bulwark for regional security. Pakistan has become a co-chair of a counter-terrorism committee. As I said at the outset, I salute the bravery of our forces which went and targeted in very precise manners terror infrastructure. But do I know whether the attacks that have taken place have actually deterred Pakistan? I don't. Our government says blood and water can't go together. The government then has obviously green-lighted India's decision to play in the Asia Cup against Pakistan. I want to know what is the government's policy towards Pakistan. I want to also know whether, as the opposition is claiming, as Rahul Gandhi has listed out, that there were certain chinks in our in what happened on the first night, whether that fusion of Chinese and Pakistani military on one side and perhaps certain weaknesses that came up in our air power. Do you want to talk about them? If you don't want to talk about them in Parliament, at least talk about it behind closed doors. I just want, as a citizen, I want more information. I found this debate tangled once again in domestic politics. You know what Nehru did, you know what Rajiv did, you know what Indira did. Why do I want to know that? I'm in
Akshita,
2025, for
Because
God's
we
sake.
need to know what happened in the past to understand the current situation.
No,
Rajdeep,
no,
be
but
okay,
that's
for
already been
example.
spoken.
Be okay.
Yes,
There
please
are
go
many
ahead.
people who
Sorry.
are listening to it for the first time who need to be educated about that. What did the Prime Minister not cover? He spoke about whether we're globally supported or isolated. He said out of 193 nations, only 3 stood with Pakistan, all the rest with us. Not one country, not one world leader, as he said, intervened or told us stop Operation Sindoor. So he's highlighted that for you. The issue of what kind of action we're taken against Pakistan. The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, went into great detail about that, about diplomatically how we've cracked the whip on Pakistan. Home Minister Amit Shah has spoken about how we've cracked down on terror in Pakistan and ensured that there's a deterrent. Prime Minister Modi also spoke about it, about the Indus Waters Treaty, like you said. So it's very clear. It's been mapped out by the Home Minister, by the External Affairs Minister, by the Prime Minister. In a 100-minute speech, if Prime Minister Modi has spoken about all of these issues, including mediation, including Nehru, what is the issue? He's also
14
putting in
times
context
Nehru.
what is the problem.
14 times
Because
Jawaharlal
Nehru
Nehru
has
in
happened.
102 minutes.
What
Rajdeep,
has
allow me
happened?
to bring in
How do we
Pranay.
not
Rajdeep,
have POK? It's because of Nehru.
There is a reason
Pranay,
why
go ahead.
Nehru has been...
Sorry?
POK.
No, we've got. You're going to tell me that all India's problems in 2025
Not all.
are linked to
Did I say-
Jawaharlal
okay,
Nehru
one
died
sec,
in
Rajdeep, come on.
1964.
I did
There
not
have been
say-
13 prime ministers since Nehru
Okay,
died.
Rajdeep, allow
For
me to
God's
bring in
sake.
Pranay,
No, but
go
Rajdeep,
ahead.
the problem remains. He was responding. Prime Minister was responding to the questions raised by the opposition benches, especially on the genesis
Opposition
of the...
raised Nehru.
No, opposition raised the why did it happen? Why didn't you go and take POK? So to which initially Home Minister responded and thereafter Prime Minister responded. He said that who created POK? We did not create POK. We got POK as a legacy. And that's why the issue of POK comes. Whether we will be able to take POK or not, nobody knows. And that has its own cost. But coming back to the point, I completely agree on to Preeti, with Preeti on this count that there are 2 issues of it. Why did it happen? What are the lapses? We need to hold someone accountable for that because these have been a repeated issue. Like Uri happened, Pahalgam happened, Pathankot happened, many terror attacks happened, and this remains a systemic issue as far as our things are concerned. That we need to have some checks. So accountability need to fix, and people should know that who failed and how did it fail. So that remains. Government was heavily focused on not on failure but on the success of Operation Sindoor, like Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor.
Right.
Operation Sindoor was subsequent
All
to
right, I
Pahalgam.
have, about 2 minutes left. Express 1 minute, Gaurav, and then Rajdeep.
No, you
1 minute.
cannot.
Okay,
You
1
cannot.
minute.
Only if I'm
You
allowed
cannot
to
distance.
speak.
You
You
cannot
see, when
distance
Rajdeep-
Pahalgam
when
from
everybody
Sindoor.
else speaks,
Please
there's
go
no
ahead.
interruption.
Rajdeep, let him-
I
quick
want no
one.
interruption
Start,
when I
start.
speak.
No one was
So-
interrupting you
please.
today.
Let's keep one thing very clear. Will there be another terror attack? We cannot second guess what a radical Islamist terrorist like Hafiz Saeed and Asim Munir are thinking. They may want to launch another attack. Fine, they will. Will there be consequences? Each time, if you go by history, after 2016, there was a surgical strike. After Pulwama, there was Balakot. And after Pahalgam, there was Sindoor. Each time there's massive escalation and massive costs for Pakistan to pay. Some of their airfields are still not operational. The air defense system still not operational. Now there's a template to punish Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. Point one. Point two, if America is calling him, America has its vested interest. Now, America is not tied to our hip. We cannot decide what American foreign policy will be, but we can decide how best our foreign policy is served, and that's exactly what appears to be happening. You know, all that talk, Trump ne ceasefire karaya, the way Trump is sulking today, it's very clear he was unable to get what he wants, because he said there's a trade deal. There is a trade deal for a ceasefire. There is still no trade deal, and he's talking about additional tariff, and that very clearly shows Trump is in trouble.
Make your point, quick.
No, look, as I said, I have welcomed the idea of a 32-hour debate, 16 hours in each house. I want to see more of it. I want to hopefully see less partisanship, less polarization, more evidentiary-based debates, more debates where both sides are willing to take the tough questions. I don't want to see rhetoric. I, in fact, thought in the first half an hour, the Prime Minister answered many of the questions that had been raised by the opposition, and then suddenly went once again into the domestic politics, trying to score points over the other. And I saw the same thing from the opposition. There was a lot that Rahul Gandhi said, which I think sounded extremely coherent, because he tried to actually speak about strategic issues, which is very rare for a politician to speak. But then again, you want to score a point by saying, I want the Prime Minister to tell me whether Trump lied on the floor of Parliament. You don't need to do that. I think my problem is debates of this nature on a very sensitive issue. Remember, the opposition was in a bit of a trap, because the moment they questioned the government, they would be accused of being anti-national.
No,
that's
but
what
every
the
debate
government
has to keep India first.
Unfortunately,
national interest has to be
unfortunately, debates on defense tend to get into that trap.
Unfortunately, the time is over. We have to close this debate.
You cannot be batting either for Pakistan or China.
Whose speech was your favorite, Rajdeep?
No, please understand.
No,
to be
Rajdeep,
asking question.
Okay, I'm going to lose time in my show.
To be nationalistic is to ask the right question.
Okay, one quickly.
But the right question.
Whose speech was your favorite? Whose speech was the best?
Whose speech was the best? You see, again, I don't want, I was not judging speeches on 10. No, I don't want
I'm
to.
running out of
It's
time.
unfair on me.
I would have wanted to hear even Shashi Tharoor and Manish Tiwari and so many more voices. It should have been a longer debate.
It should have been. Okay, one thing we
one,
realized, it should have been a longer debate. I think something we disagree on a fair bit. What we do agree on is that it was a bit of give and take, right?
Oh,
There was. All
I
right.
love
So
the way the
we leave
opposition
it
and the
at that.
government came together
We
in
leave it
leading
at-
delegations
we
overseas.
leave it
That's
at
the
that.
way
Thank you for
wish though-
joining
I
us.
wish at the end of the day.
Thank
there
you
was
for
a
joining
common
us. Up next
resolution.
is To The
There
Point.
was a
Stay
common
tuned for the
joint
debate.
resolution at the end of it, like there was in Pakistan.
It's okay. It's over. The show is over.